All right, Kristen.
hmm
Kristen, where'd you grow up? Where are you from originally?
The DC area, Northern Virginia, DC. I was born in Richmond, and my, I mean, I guess we were pretty well off family, good parents, I have to say.
That's great.
But I have one brother, and we were swimmers. That was what I did growing up, and I was good. I still hold records for that. I still miss it, but I was practice before school, after school. Every weekend we had to meet. It was just, I was all winter.
This is in high
And
school.
no, this was when I swam before I could walk, really. Like I was swimming. I have records from when I was 5 in 1984 still. So when I was real little. And then when I was 12, I went to Junior Olympics. And that the coach that I had for that. My parents were going to move to Northern Virginia, so I went to live with him, and other swimmers had done that.
You lived with your coach
Yeah,
rather than your family.
and well, because they moved, and so in order to stay with that same coach and on that team, I had to live in that area, and so I stayed with him, and that just ended up being, I'm he molested me. So it just wasn't about swimming anymore. And it ruined everything, basically, because I quit. And I, it was like to this day, I wish I had just either stuck it out regardless of what he was doing, or just he had never done that, because that was like the one thing in my life that I was really good at. Like I think probably everybody has a gift, but I was really good, and you know, that would have been my ticket. That would have been what I could have done
Did he get it caught for this?
eventually, but not for me. Um I never came forward, mostly because later I had got I was abducted, and I did go to the police for that, and that man went to prison, but that was at the same time I heard that my old coach was getting caught. So I didn't I guess I just didn't want to go through both things at once, or I figured he was already getting in trouble, and already had to go to court in Louisiana for the kidnapping. And so I just didn't say anything.
How did you get kidnapped?
I was driving on my way to Mardi Gras, and I got off the interstate to get a pack of cigarettes because I was out. And I pulled up at I stopped. I mean, this is in Shreveport, Louisiana, but I mean, at the time I didn't know where I was. I just pulled up to a red light, and there was a police station right there. It was like a compound, multiple buildings, and uniformed cops and everything walking around. And a man, well, these guys had been yelling towards me over to the side, kind of just like catcalling, and I was ignoring them basically. And then I saw like a flash in one of the mirror. I don't know. It happened so fast. He jumped in my passenger side door and stuck a gun in my side and just said, drive. And I thought he was carjacking me. So, but even if I had known what he was doing, I hadn't, I drove, I just did what he said. Um, and I was trying to act like I wanted to be there and like kind of like laugh and make things lighthearted, and until he hit me, he backhanded me really hard, and that was when I realized that I was in trouble. And I don't know, before that, I guess I was pretending that somehow I wanted him in my car. I even tried to say, like, okay, well, can I drop you off somewhere? And like, cause I need to get back home. Like, like he was going to do that. um, but he took me back to a house, and he chained me to a pole in a shed behind this house. And, I was there for 5 days, almost a week. And I didn't see anybody else but him, and he raped me 1,000 times. And And I mean, I thought he was going to kill me. I knew he kept saying he didn't know what to do with my body. He said that over and over. And I was thinking, we're in Louisiana. You can like cut me and throw me in a swamp somewhere and the alligators will probably eat me. Like I'm thinking, I can think of what to do with my body. What is wrong with this dude? And the one time during that whole time that I saw another person, he was showing like one of his friends, like that he had me or something. And the friend was like, I know her. She's a cop that was driving around. And I don't know why he said that. I don't know who he thought I was, but I was thinking, oh my God, if they think I'm a cop, like that's even worse. But in retrospect, it's kind of like, if I was a cop, they would have swarmed you by now. Like, but I was chained by my ankles, and I had been a stripper before that, actually, because this was, I had been hooked on heroin slightly before this, not to jump around, but, and I danced for a while during that. And I don't know if that's what gave me the idea, or her watching true crime maybe gave me the idea, but, I I went up to the top of the pole and pushed the boards up with my, ankles, with the chains on my ankles. They were like old timey shackles, and my feet were probably like 18 inches apart, maybe. And till I got the chain on the other side of the pole, and then I fell asleep. But I meant to go right. He only left. He would leave at like maybe like 4 a.m, right towards dawn, and just be gone for an hour or two. And that was when I was going to go. But I was so tired. He hadn't given me any food or water the whole time, and I was just exhausted, and I fell asleep. And then when I woke up and realized that it had gotten light out, oh my God, I just scrambled and made too much noise with the chain. And but I was out, and I was trying to run, but my they were still chained together. But I was he came out of the house and he had the gun, but he didn't shoot at me. And I remember thinking that I could feel him, a bullet like going right between my shoulder blades. I was just sure it was going to hit me right there for some reason, but he didn't shoot it. And I don't know why. Maybe it was never loaded, or maybe it was even a fake gun. I don't think it was a fake gun, because the cops did. Well, I got to a service station, and an older lady showed up there after the cops had gotten there, and she said she saw me and sort of saw part of the incident. And so she was saying that she was yelling for me to come and hide in her house. And then she said, I don't have a phone, but we could have both hidden. And I was like, oh my God, if I had gone in your house and then you told me you didn't have a phone, I might have killed you. But yeah, at least she showed up to the service station. And I mean, I didn't have any clothes on. I just had like a tank top that was ripped, and I had blood all over me, and I was but no one else between where I ran from and the service station made any move to help me. They all just looked at me like I was in the wrong neighborhood. It was sad. But that man had been in prison for 25 years for the rape and murder of a 16-year-old girl. And he was on parole for 2 months when he got me. The parents of that girl and her brother came to my trial and were thanking me for putting him back in prison, because, I mean, they fought so he wouldn't be released. And he ended up literally doing the same exact crime as he did to their daughter. And that's the reason he kept telling me he didn't know what to do with my body, because that's how he thinks he got caught for that first crime. He thought if he had made it so they couldn't find her body, he wouldn't have gotten caught. I mean, I don't know if that's true or not. I mean, maybe, but either way, I mean, how sick are you that you spend 25 years in prison and you're out on parole for 2 months and you go out and do the same? It's just crazy.
So you got away.
I did. I got away, and
And he got caught.
he got caught. Well, and how they found him was in Louisiana. I don't know who built Shreveport, Louisiana, but there are roads on the front and the backs of all the houses, which just seems like a huge waste of space. But and then the houses look the same on both sides. It's really weird. So I was having a really hard time. I thought I could just go in the car with the detectives and backtrack where I had run and find this location, because I realized 4 or 5 days afterward, they really weren't at least working fast enough or hard enough, in my opinion, to find him. And so I asked, could we go in the car and I could just take them to where I was, which they did. But then after about 2 hours, I found myself like apologizing to them because I just couldn't seem to find it. And that surprised me, because normally I have a pretty good sense of direction. But then right after I was getting ready to say, why don't we just maybe stop trying to do this? I saw it and I was just like, oh my God, that's it. And they said, okay, well, let's drive around to the front side of the house, because it looked like the front side of a house with the shed in the yard, which was weird to have a shed in your front yard, but that's what it looked like. But then when they said, let's drive around the front, the other side of the house looked exactly the same. And it was just weird to have street on both sides. But when we went around the front, he was laying in the driveway, changing license plate on the car. And I was like, that's him. That's him right there. And we went to the end of the street. And the only thing I asked them was, please don't walk him like right by the car, so he'll see that it's me. I don't, and they did that. And that always bothered me. They did. They arrested him and walked him directly right by me. So,
How long is he in for now?
99 years. He got 99 years plus he was on parole he had been sentenced to 25 years to life. So he really got the rest of that term anyway. But I was happy for the 99 years, because that's just like a jury saying, you're never getting out. Like, we're going to give you years you're not going to possibly live through,
So you went through the thing with your swim coach, and then you went through this.
Yeah. And I think I was already destroyed from my swim coach. And
Is that where the drug use started?
yeah. Because at first I started drinking in high school, and just a lot. And I would drink before school if I could. I just was trying to, I don't know what I was trying, not feel. That's what I was trying to do. And then it started with smoking weed. And then the guy that I was dating, or I started dating someone that was selling weed. And I basically stayed with him while he sold the harder and harder drug then he started selling coke, and then I was doing coke along with the drinking. So I would do the cocaine and be able to stay awake when I was drinking too much. And
Was your family involved in your life?
it was when my parents, my dad started cheating on my mom with the older sister of these guys that I went to school with. And she was only 4 years older than me when I was 15. So I found out about it because my uncle had died. And when my parents were away at the funeral, my brother threw a big party. He was only 13 months older than me. So we had all the same friends and stuff. So at this party, my brother got really drunk. And at like 3 a.m, he says, let's call Dad's girlfriend and get her to make us breakfast. And I'm like, Dad has a girlfriend? But he called her and she came and made people breakfast, which was weird. And I lasted maybe a month or so after that before I told my mom that my dad was cheating on her. But she must have known, because when she asked me who it was, and I was like, God, I can't say that, because I was a daddy's girl. Like, I didn't want to really be telling on him at all. But then I felt so sorry for her. It was a small enough town that it became like the biggest scandal there, and everybody knew about it. And I felt like everybody did know about it, and they were, I don't know if they were laughing at my mom, but at least talking about her, and it's just, I hated that place for that reason. I still never want to go back there, just because it's just, I don't know, maybe too small of a town. Anybody that would like just gossip so much about one family going through basically a divorce, but somebody cheating, or, it's just, it was mean. I always felt like it was mean. I've always had more empathy for people than that. And I don't like it when people treat other people really badly. I've had a hard time on the street because of that too, because that's the norm, treating other people badly. But that hurts me. Like, if someone's making fun of someone, or just like, I've seen people just walk up and start beating another person for no reason, like no conversation before, just to be mean. I've seen some horrible things like that. And I don't know why people act like that, but I've always been definitely someone to fight for the
What brought you to LA?
underdog. Uh, I quit using heroin, and I was on methadone. Because I ultimately started using heroin because the same dealer boyfriend. Yeah, this part comes a little bit first. I got hooked on heroin because he's an idiot, and he was speaking in slang to guys in Worcester, Massachusetts, which is 18-hour drive from where we lived. But he was trying to get coke because we hadn't had coke in a couple weeks, and it was Christmas, and at that point people just wanted to snort something in that small town, I guess. So he was going to drive these 18 hours and pick up coke in Worcester, Massachusetts. But they were talking on the phone using slang. When he got all the way up there driving my car, they had heroin, and not coke, because they were both saying dope or whatever they were saying. They're idiots. So stupid. So he bought the heroin because he's an idiot, and he just wanted to bring some drugs back, I guess. And so that's how I started using heroin. And that same boyfriend ended up choking me till I was unconscious and throwing me over the side of a bridge in that town. And he went to prison, but only for 6 years for that. And I thought that was really low, because if you're trying to kill someone and you actually think you did kill them and you're trying to dump their body, you should get the same sentence as a murderer, I think. But that was the last day I ever spent in that town. So
why do you think you've had so many of these abusive relationships with men?
I think because I say what I think, and I'm opinionated, and I don't hold back. I think I speak a lot before I think. And a lot of these guys that are like wannabe gangster type guys will slap you around for that, for having any kind of a opinion or voice, which is why I'm single forever now. Because I'm a horrible judge of who I should date, clearly. And
How old are you?
42.
And do you have children?
No, because I couldn't have kids, and that was what precipitated my relapse. I mean, I was clean for almost 15 years.
Really?
And I'm not now. During that 15 years, I actually got married, and then I had 6 miscarriages. And my whole life, I knew I would have kids. I mean, the first place I ever worked was a daycare center, and I just love them. And when I couldn't have them. And then when I run into girls out here that are like, oh, yeah, no, I have a son. And I'm like, you don't have a kid. You're out here. Your kid is with someone else. Thank God. But it always bothers me, because I'm like, and you're lucky you could have them to begin with. Here I am. I desperately want them. And I ended up using again because, which when you're clean for that long, oh my gosh, I was so far removed from drug use and everything that happened to me that I actually might have made it. I might have been in that small percentage, but nothing turns out in your life the way you think it's going to. I don't know. It gets kind of just, well, what's the point if if I don't have kids and I don't, what else am I gonna do? I mean, I guess I didn't really have another plan, or maybe I was just punishing myself for, I don't know. But by then, I had moved out here because that was part of, after what happened with that guy and the whole bridge thing. I never went, well, I never was back in that town again. And so that's really why I came out here. When I was 5 years old, I saw a picture. It was a postcard of the Santa Monica Pier, and it looked like, when I was 5, it looked like an amusement park. And when I was older, when I found out that that was somewhere that you could live and like make money, and I just thought that was definitely where I should go. So that was what put LA in my head, really, like the weather. And I think the last winter I was in Northern Virginia, it was so cold. Um, my whole car was covered in snow, and once I scraped it, then the keyhole was frozen. I couldn't stick the key in, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm done." So that was the weather and that picture from when I was 5 that brought me out here. But there's so many people that are transplants. But well, at first it was good. I remember talking to my mom on the phone and telling her I was happier than I'd ever been before, because I was, just working and have my own apartment, and I was in LA, and it's beautiful here, and I was not in danger of running into anyone that I didn't want to see, and so I was comfortable. And I remember telling her I was, yeah, happier than I'd ever been before. And then I slowly just, first I would have wine like after work with people from work, and then it's like, I think that's how I slowly started going towards relapsing, because it was just a social thing. And then that's obviously really bad for me, because I can't just keep it at that. And um, then ended up not working at the, like, I've had some great jobs, and worked in some really like cool places like forensic accounting and things, stuff like that I'm really interested in, to do with like forensics and crime. And so that part of my life should have been great, but I was always sort of pulled towards the dark side for some reason. And even my parents, my dad, I mean, my brother and I both were heroin addicts. And my dad never even smoked a cigarette. And he's asked me before, how did I end up with 100% of my kids are hooked on this drug? And I never, not only did I not do a drug, I didn't smoke a cigarette. He's never been a drinker, just nothing. And he has 100% of his kids are addicts. And he always feels like, what did I ever do to deserve that? It's certainly not his fault, but I don't know. I sometimes I wonder why I've had, it seems like, an unusual amount of bad things happen to me. Like, I have a stepfather now that my parents split up, and my dad actually married the woman that he was cheating on my mom with, and then my mom was by herself for a long time, and then she got remarried. And my stepdad is he was an ambassador for his whole career in a bunch of different countries, but he's very straight-laced. He does not believe in anything like luck or bad luck. He doesn't, even though, I mean, to me, I've had some bad luck. And he, after knowing me for 6 years, he was like, okay, you have bad luck, I'll admit. I mean, luck, or I have a mouth, or I have a voice. I like to say that's better. Not a mouth so much. So, but I've loved it out here, but not until I got, being on the street is not something you love. It's worse than anything I could ever imagine.
How did you relapse?
I I slowly started with the wine, that then I started buying it for at home after, just like a happy hour thing. And then I ended up getting laid off from my job that I really liked. And it was during the time when unemployment paid you for 96 weeks, before I think it was Trump that cut that off to nothing. But since it was so long, those 96 weeks, even though it was way less than I made, I managed to still make it work, and just used all my free time to go back into a deep depression and not wanting to get out of bed, and ultimately searching for heroin. And it actually, I didn't know about Skid Row. I went to Compton because I think that's what it says in like rap songs or something, because that's definitely where I went. And they directed me to Skid Row. And then I used heroin, relapsed on heroin, and didn't my parents didn't know or anything, because they're still back on the East Coast, and they still thought I was out here doing great. And then fentanyl came along, and I started using that. And now I don't know what the end of the story is.
Where are you living? Are you on the street?
I am. I'm in a shelter right now, which is such a huge blessing. I mean, because it's unusually hard. I remember the first night I was going to be outside, I called so many places that day, because they say they have like emergency vouchers for motels and stuff. That's not true. They don't. And they were all kind of like scoffing at me. Like, oh, well, nobody's even going to look at your file until you've been outside for a year. And I'm like, oh my God, I was like not even wanting to be outside for tonight. I mean, because at the time, even though I was using, I was thinking if somebody could help me with a place to stay, I could at least maybe keep working and things wouldn't get so bad. But I couldn't slow it down at that point. It was maybe, I guess, too late. And then once you're out on the street, it's shocking how hard it is to get back inside, because no, like they told me on that very first day, they were telling me the truth. All 8 of those places were telling me the truth. Nobody looks at your file till you've been outside for a year. And once you've been outside for a year, you're a different person than you were, because the person I was buying drugs from, of all people, was mad, and he was like, "No, you can't be homeless. You're gonna change. You're not gonna be the same sweet Chris. You're gonna be like hard and mean. Like you won't even lend somebody your lighter." And he was right. He was right, because people do some horrible things to each other out here, which is so stupid. I've never walked by a homeless person asleep on the street and thought, what could I steal from them? That seems retarded to me, but they do. Like, and it's the worst feeling. I don't know. I think I felt worse the first time, and every time after that I woke up on the sidewalk and someone had stolen everything I owned and I literally just had clothes on my back. I think that was a worse feeling almost than any of the other horrific things, from the kidnapping, rapes. I don't know. I feel like that was almost worse, because that was just that was really hard for some reason. I don't know. Like, I guess I felt like there were people that could help me with other bad things that had happened, or well, they happened. I wasn't destitute though, so I could still eat a good meal and take a shower after those things happened, especially rapes. I mean, showering was like, but this was like, I was already homeless, and now somebody just somehow made that worse. um,
How do you support yourself now?
I steal from stores and sell it.
Boosting.
hmm I wasn't sure you'd know what boosting was. A lot of people don't, but of course you should. Yeah. And that is hard for me to do because most of these places, I shopped in with my parents growing up, which is probably why or how I learned how to behave in them so I can go into a lot of places where some other people might not be able to really even go in them. And so I kind of feel it feels bad. I remember standing at some counters in department stores and Macy's and stuff when I was a kid, and my mom being like, "Where is this checkout lady?" But we never would have left the store because there was no employee. That never crossed anybody's mind. So there not being an employee to check you out now being such a good thing is kind of weird. But and it's makes you enough money to get by, but having to do that every day is rough.
How does
It's
this
rough.
lifestyle affect you emotionally?
It has worn me completely down because it's just it's just such a waste, like and it's sad. I mean, I had managed to go through all these other things in my life, but not get tangled up in police issues, and but when you're boosting every day, you're going to eventually get caught for things like that. So now it's like I've got court dates that I've missed, and I'm just waiting for, I guess, to get arrested and go in on those warrants because anything else I do before that happens, I still am going to have that. So I just feel like now my life is.
Is it embarrassing for you to you used to be a great swimmer that
Yeah.
had a lot of potential, and now
Yeah, and now and it's the reason I won't go. I mean, my dad and they want me to go back there and spend time in like a long-term rehab, and I'm like, how could I even go to that area? I wouldn't show my face anywhere. Like I would be too scared of running into someone that knew how good I had it before. And like for them to see me now, it's too embarrassing. I couldn't do it. I just and also, I mean, about a week ago, I was sitting on a sidewalk down the street from a mall that I had just boosted at, and I was starting to fall asleep. And I wrote with my marker, "I wish I was dead," on the sidewalk. And when I woke up, it was because these two cops were waking me up. And I was still, I guess, half asleep because I had taken a Xanax too, and so I was kind of out of it, and not. I hadn't really thought ahead to them taking me to jail because somehow I was thinking I wasn't doing anything wrong. So I don't know what I was thinking. I wasn't thinking clearly, but especially So then when I was handcuffed while they were searching everything, I still somehow wasn't thinking I was going to go to jail, oddly, but they didn't actually take me to the jail. The one cop, it was a man and a woman, and the man asked me if I wrote that on the sidewalk, and I told him that I did, and I was thinking he was just going to charge me with vandalism or something, and then I don't know. He was like, you know what? You have two warrants, but I think you need a break, so we're just going to let you go. I couldn't believe it. I don't know why he did that, but it made me think like, well, he let me go, but the next person, like, I don't know. Does that mean I'm supposed to go turn myself in? I don't know. I just, I can't believe that my life is what it is now.
Kristen, what would you say is the most important lesson you've learned after all of this?
That it's just drugs and just not the answer. It's just a temporary fix because everything that I've done drugs for, like to numb myself and to not feel, all of that stuff is still there when I quit, which is why I don't want to quit. But then what does that mean? I'm supposed to use drugs for the rest of my life? That's not practical either. I mean, I'll end up in prison. It's true what they say, because in order to support yourself, what, I have to boost? Okay, so I'll end up in prison long before I would use for the rest of my life. I mean, there are a lot of people ODing right now. I have never OD'd somehow, oddly. Never. So I don't know why that is, but I have no stories of using too many drugs. I use a lot, but I just have a high tolerance, oddly. I don't know. I haven't, all these people that are dying from fentanyl, sometimes it feels like it doesn't even get me high enough. And I don't even, it's not even the high, it's like just the numb. But that's definitely, drugs are not the answer. If I could ask God or whoever put us here to take one thing from me, it would be depression. Because I was clean for 15 years. I'm pretty sure I can lick drug addiction, but I use because of depression mainly. And that's what I would want him to absolve me of. Because that's the worst feeling. I can't watch an animal like a dog that looks like it's like maybe the runt of the litter. And this happened yesterday. So there was this one little dog that was like going in the corner by herself and looked so sad. And I'm literally sitting there thinking, is she depressed? Because that would kill me. That's the dog I'm going to pet and try to make happy, because yeah, it's the worst feeling in the world, being depressed. I mean, anything that drive you to this type of life is definitely, has got to be a really bad feeling.
All right, Kristen, thank you so much for sharing your story.
Thank you.
I wish you the best of luck out there.
Thanks.